Good evening, captive audience. Welcome aboard once again. Your host Don Anderson and their other host, Winning Bigly, Sonny Danforth. Good evening, Sonny. How you doing?
Hey, good evening, Don. And we are winning bigly. We are like on, what is it, T minus five, right?
It's Can you believe it? I mean, it's just work is cut out for us, right? But this we finally are going downhill with a tailwind for the first time probably since Ronald Reagan. I mean, it is absolutely insanely incredible. And without further ado, because we're going to wind up using every bit of our time today, because there's so much to talk about. I just wanted to lead off real quick with this whole thing around California and the fires, because there is so much wrapped in that. I don't even know where to start. So bear with me. I'm going to try to give you organized thoughts on this. The first thing is we've had a situation happen where the state of California, roughly 40 million people, roughly what 8% of the population, the biggest electoral rich prize in the country, and about as deep blue as you can possibly get, just swallowed the biggest red pill ever. And who could have predicted that it would happen in this fashion? As usual with lefties, they have to get punched in the face by the results of their insane policies before they'll rethink them. Normally, what happens is their policies impact the poorest among us, the brownest among us, and it takes longer for that to happen. But this is a case where it hit the people who are driving this and the richest among us, the residents of the Palisades. That's not to say there aren't middle class people there as well, because of course many people bought those houses generations ago, bought them when they were like inexpensive, had no idea that the value would be where it is, and those poor people have gotten just hosed, and I really feel badly for them. That said, I saw an electoral map of that place like a week ago. 75 to 80% of them voted Democrat. They voted for this stuff. So let let me just walk you through it, because I tried to organize my thoughts here so I wouldn't ramble, because it's easy to ramble on something that's this rich. And Sonny, feel free to jump in along the way, and I'll try not to talk in machine gun fashion. So the first black bolded highlight I have here is, what have we got? We got the worst firestorms in U.S. history. 56 square miles roasted, and it's still going. That was as of a couple of days ago. To give you a sense of how bad that is, in World War II, when we firebombed Tokyo, only 16 square miles got roasted. When Great Britain firebombed Dresden, Germany, only 2.5 miles got roasted. This is a literal liberal apocalypse, and looters are running wild. People aren't being arrested; they're being re-released. It's like it's unreal. The question you have to ask, of course, then is, why have we got it? Both Sonny and I spent time in Southern Cal. I lived there for a long time. Santa Ana winds, they happen every year. They don't necessarily go to 100 miles an hour, but for 40, 50 miles an hour, that's not unusual at all. Usually from October to December, you get that, and it's a dry tinderbox. So fire season is an annual event. We know this. What's not usual, or the way things haven't been in the past, is they've outlawed every logical thing you can do because of left-wing progressive policies to prevent fires from happening. So we're talking about things like, I think Newsom either stopped or deconstructed 4 reservoirs. The Palisades Reservoir was dry as a bone. There was no water in it because they're trying to save some smelt.
For three and a half years, it's been dry.
For 3.5 years, dry as a bone. They knew that this was fire season, and they did nothing. And this was predicted, by the way. They did nothing to put water back in the reservoir. They've blocked the clearing of shrubs because they were afraid of some snail or something being harmed. So the shrubs and the ground debris has been piling up for literally years, probably over a decade. So that hasn't been done. They've created the conditions for it. I'm sorry, go ahead, Sonny.
No, they have. And part of it is the environmentalists, and they've had record-breaking rain. And, the last couple of winters, I mean, remember just a couple of years ago, record-breaking snow, right? Up
Yeah.
in the Sierras and in the mountains. And so you have a lot of growth, and yet they are forbidden from cutting any other brush.
It's unreal. I mean, you're sitting on the ocean. Only liberals could do this. Could burn their city down next to the ocean. It's just incredible. It's so pathetic. There's firemen literally using their helmets and cones, and that's no exaggeration, using parking street cones to scoop water out of like mud puddles to throw on fire. I mean, this in one of the wealthiest zip codes in the United States. These people
Yeah.
pay exorbitant taxes. I mean, exorbitant. We're talking California style taxation to have the government protect them. The one and only job, the first and most foremost job a government is supposed to do is protect its citizens. And they have done none of that. What they've done instead, they spend millions of dollars on homeless, who are the ones who are most likely to probably have started the fires. That's usually the way a lot of these things start. I mean, some of them could have been down power lines, but homeless are notorious for starting fires. And they pour a fortune into that, taking money from their fire department to pay for that. In fact, the mayor was going to she was slashing another, $15 million from the budget. Just a couple of weeks ago, she was trying to slash more money from the fire department budget. Sorry, go ahead, Sonny.
Yeah, I think it was 18 million, but they've diverted billions for homeless and there were three things that they diverted billions from the fire department and into helping illegals, homeless, and something else. And instead of protecting these people, and you know, every time the Santa Ana winds blow, the arsons come out of the woodwork.
Every time.
Every time.
This is a known thing. And then the classic thing about this is I remember I was not really paying attention to this one, thinking, it's just another, LA fire. The first few days I wasn't paying attention to it. And then I saw something in the news and they were interviewing the chief of the fire department. And I thought, no, they didn't. I mean, and it was a 100% DEI hire. I mean, 100%. I think three of them, their first name is Kristen. They even had the same name. It's incredible.
Yes.
And if you look at their website, they touted, what are they touting? They're not touting their firefighting skills. They're not touting their desire to keep the city safe. They're touting their desire to be to promote the LGBTQ agenda. I mean, I think 2 or 3 of them are lesbians. I mean, and nothing against lesbians as long as they're qualified, but these obviously aren't qualified, and obviously it's not the most important thing in their job. Their entire website is dedicated to talking about how they want to bring more diversity to the fire department. So how's that diversity working out for you in Southern Cal is the question. It's just insane. Your job is to stop fires, and when they happen, fight them. And there's nothing in their backgrounds to indicate they're interested in doing that. Go, sorry.
And today I read that there was 100 trucks in the fire department that needed repair.
You can't make it up. You cannot make it up.
You can't make it up. The ineptness. Yeah. And it's and you're absolutely right. When the fire chief was appointed by the mayor, then she said she is going to concentrate. Her number one priority is the diversity of the fire department.
Oh. And I would suggest mission accomplished, because it's definitely diverse. There ain't no question about it.
Well, that's right. And there was even a video of a woman. I don't remember her position with the LA Fire Department, and I don't know if she was city or county. And the interviewer said, "And are you capable of carrying out a man? Can you rescue a man?" And she said, "You know what? It's not my problem. If that man gets himself into that situation, that's just not my problem." I mean, that's unacceptable.
I love it though when they're honest, because if she had said that, and of course she did say that when nothing was going on, people just don't pay attention until they get personally smacked in the face. How many times we talked about this on this program? When we talked about what was going on in New York City with regard to the illegal immigration, they're blue, blue, blue till the cows come home. They're blue, blue, blue as long as the illegals are camping out in the southern border in Texas and Arizona, places that are far away. But as soon as those governors started shipping those folks there and they started setting up hotels in their neighborhoods, taking over their gymnasiums, destroying their schools, urinating in their front yard, raping and pillaging their kids, all of a sudden we got it figured out and maybe we need to go red. It's a horrible thing. I wish they didn't have to learn that way, but there's no question about it. The experience is the best teacher. She is a cruel teacher, but she is the best teacher.
Yeah, it's true. And, they're talking now that it could be that this is the big red pill
Oh,
and going, this is not what's working for us because these people are not that lost their homes. First of all, I'm so sorry that they did, but sadly, they did get what they voted for.
yeah.
Sadly, this
It,
is the
it,
outcome. But they all paid property taxes that were under Proposition 13. But when you pull a permit and you rebuild, your taxes are now going to, and these are not homes that only take a year to build or you're going to build it in 6 months. It's 3 to 3 years after you get a permit
oh,
to build some of these mansions.
and you
And
just hit me with the next red pill portion of this. When they start facing those regulations, what do conservatives talk about all day long? After talking about taxation, we talk about regulation and what
yeah,
a killer it is for business. They're about to find out the true cost of protecting the snail darter and all that other insanity because it's going to take. And these are people, by the way, who are used to just getting what they want on a dime. So this isn't like the poor who are used to like getting walked over all the time by their government. This is really wealthy people who are used to like just dropping a few dimes, dropping some money, and getting what they want immediately. Ain't happening this time. You're about to swallow, baby, what you've been voting for.
well, in fact, these are a lot of political movers and shakers of California, and that this has happened to. And there, I'm hearing people are saying we need to dissolve the Coastal Commission because they stop everything. We need to dissolve the Coastal Commission and we need to do away with some of the regulations and we need to fast track, building permits. But I
Well,
was in my car today doing an errand, and I'm sorry that I didn't hear the whole thing. That a fellow was talking about, we have, um, there are electric vehicles everywhere. Well, they have lithium ion batteries in them that are still burning,
unbelievable.
and that now that's a hazardous material
Mhm.
deal. So you have to have a hazmat suit. And what are they going to do with that? How's that going to hold up their rebuilding? Lord knows here in Oregon, when we had all the fires over on the west side, they said that there was so much toxic that burned, they had to dig down 3 feet, 5 feet, haul that to a toxic dump site, and bring soil in before they could, start rebuilding. Do you and this is the thing is we have a lot of toxic things in our homes. All
Mhm.
of us do
Mhm.
to varying degrees. And it's not quite just simple. Well, we'll just scrape off a little bit, and there we go. And you have the environmentalists that are good, bad, or indifferent that are in charge of this, have put a lot of regulation on.
Yeah, well, this is why I think this is hey, like the old what is it? The telephone commercials say, "Can you hear me now? Can you
Yeah.
hear us now?" I mean, can you hear us now? I mean, we've been saying this for decades. This is what California, and this is like the perfect storm of leftism all in one spot. This is the destruction. It shows the destructive stupidity of the environmental movement. This has demonstrated the destructive stupidity of the anti-police laws because now you got looters running all over the place. And this is a place where what they changed the regulations such that stealing anything under $900 is like a misdemeanor. Well, you've created an environment where you're going to have people running around stealing. They've actually had citizens arrest people, caught them in the act. One of them had like a gasoline pack or whatever, right? And caught the guy in the act. The police come get the guy, and he's back on the streets like the next day. You know, that is a direct result
Yes.
of liberal, stupid, like law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. I don't blame the police. Obviously, they're victims of this, of what the crazy attorneys general and the craziness that Californians keep voting for. The beautiful thing about this is there's already a massive election recall effort underway for the mayor, and I understand there's one on the way for Newsom also. I mean, this event might single-handedly tank his candidacy president. It should.
Yes, it should. So I've got a little clip here, or an article from PJ Media, and related to this, and it says that the LA Times had reported in 2019 that the Department of Water and Power wanted to replace old wooden electricity poles with steel ones to lessen the fire fuel in Topanga Canyon. They had also hoped the wood white to widen fire breaks on the slopes leading from the Pacific Palisades to the Pacific Coast Highway. Um, and but the environmentalists in 2019 had stopped the brush mitigation around Topanga Canyon by the LA Department of Water and Power in the Pacific Palisades in 2019 because of community concerns about protected plants. And so sometime in July, the Department of Water and Power used bulldozers to clear and widen a graded area. So they tried to do some stuff, and the environmentalists shut it down.
Mm. Yeah.
And so yeah, and to, like, as Trump had said, and they stopped the water to for a fish. And now I was reading, I don't know if the story's true, that the fish, nobody's even seen this, smelt. No, it's like, this is like, in where I came from in the Coachella Valley, we had a fringe-toed lizard preserve. There was never any fringe-toed lizards that lived in that preserve. They live in blow sand and areas that I used to ride motorcycles in. It's now all developed. There, we used to see the fringe-toed lizard there. But what they did is they made this little preserve area that there were no fringe-toed lizards, and they said, we're going to call this the Fringe-Toed Lizard Preserve so that all the rest of this can get developed.
Yes.
And you'll pay a fee. You want to develop this land, you're going to pay a fee to the Fringe-Toed Lizard Preserve. It's like this make you feel good crap.
Yeah. Well, there's been an investigation started already with regard to their finding environmentalists are oftentimes making up things where there's no such thing as whatever the creature is that they're trying to protect. Once the research is done, it doesn't exist in the first place. So a lot of this is going to get rolled back just from that. But the bottom line, when it comes down to human nature is all about self-interest. It's just how it is, right? And enough people have gotten roasted, literally, for taking positions that don't make sense, and it finally came back to bite them. This will, I think, have a dramatic impact on the environmentalist movement as well. I mean, no longer will they be able to just say crazy things and get away with it, because people are seeing the direct impact of those policies on their personal life, not somebody else's life, on your life. Just like we did with the police. You take away police, and guess what? You're going to have crime in your neighborhood. You reduce the laws against fentanyl and meth, and guess what? You're going to have more fentanyl and meth. You don't enforce the laws on the border, guess what you're going to get? You're going to have a bunch of criminals running across the border. These laws are just as natural as gravity. If you jump off a roof, gravity pulls your butt to the pavement. It doesn't care whether you're red, black, yellow, green, doesn't care whether you're Republican or Democrat, your butt will hit the pavement. And when you violate the laws of human nature, which is what liberalism, socialism, communism does, the impact will be the same every single time. And the problem with liberals now, they just don't get it. Part of that, of course, our leftist schools don't teach history, because if it did, they would know that 100 million people got wiped out by these policies and this kind of thinking over the last century. What did the German philosopher Hegel teaches? History teaches us that man learns nothing from history, and LA is a perfect burning bush example of that.
Yes, and this area in Pacific Palisades hadn't burned for 60 years. And so in 2019, this work that they wanted to do, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the California Department of Parks and Rec, and the California Coastal Commission all got involved. They stopped the Topanga Canyon pole replacement and the fire road work, and to determine if the LA Department of Water and Power had broken the law. They ended up, LA Department of Water and Power had to pay a $1.9 million fine replant the endangered plants, perform erosion control, and reverse grading. That's what they'll get you. And there are in our lifetimes, Dawn, we have watched it go from we managed the forest, we had fire roads in all of our forests, we had controlled burns, to the environmentalists taking over, stopping uh, timber, harvesting timber in the forests all over here, all over. And now we're having record breaking fires.
Oh, you look at
And Oregon and Washington are ripe for it this summer again.
Yeah, we've had them. I grew up here. I don't ever remember fires in Oregon. Like, not big ones, obviously little ones, but
Little
not the
ones.
stuff we've seen. Literally in the last 5 years, we had a fire so thick in Portland you couldn't even see 2 blocks down the street. That never happened. The Columbia Gorge burned, if y'all remember that a few years ago. These things never happened. Remember in Paradise, California? Now, California's been having epic fires. And I used to do some work up in Paradise, California, right? I mean, burnt that thing. I don't even know if the place exists anymore. And then there was a fire in Santa Rosa, which I think it actually got to the city itself.
Yes.
And as epic as those were, this is, of course, even more epic. And they didn't learn anything from those, by the way. So here we are. I think this is.
But they did, because they want to drive everybody out of the rural living and into the cities.
Yeah.
Right.
There's
Right.
always that, because they're already talking about solutions where they're going to replace all that housing with a bunch of multi-family living, which is, of course, back to the old 15-minute city, which I think we've covered on this podcast in the past.
Yes.
That's what they want.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's.
But they may have picked on the wrong crowd this time.
They may have. They may have. We'll see. I'm
Have resources.
going to tell.
Yeah, these people actually have resources to fight back with. So it's, a lot of people will say they've just look what they did to Hawaii. It looks pretty similar, doesn't it?
Yes. In fact, I saw a thing on X today that in Hawaii, it could have rebuilt Maui there for $5 billion. And yet, of course, our Biden, I cannot say it because Trump is our president, Biden sent Ukraine $6 billion right after the fire.
I tell you, and speaking of that sort of thing, this has kind of been buried in the news, but how is North Carolina being treated?
Like the awful. I won't even say what I was going to say. That was awful.
Yeah, I mean, they're still in deep trouble in North Carolina. I mean, there's people I understand where the money's run out to pay for their stays in hotels while they get rebuilt, and the government's not coming back and providing them with funds so they can stay in these hotels until their places get rebuilt. So they're going to basically be out in the street in a tent. Of course, it's a conservative state, so
yeah, that's the difference. And I will say, to FEMA's defense, they said that to January 25th that people can stay in their hotels. But did they notify the hotels? No, because I watched an interview with a woman. She said, I've just been kicked out of my hotel. I am waiting for FEMA to inspect my house. That's still standing.
More rules and regs.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll tell you. 5 more days and we have a new administration, and let me tell you, the shit's gonna hit the fan. You know what, it's gonna be shock and eye like I think we've never seen. And just hold on, North Carolina. America hasn't forgot about you. We pray for you. And it wasn't the ineptness of of your state's government that caused your disaster. That's a total natural disaster. And you could say California was a natural disaster, but it wasn't. It was because of arson. And Santa Ana winds, it happens. And when the wind's blowing like that, no amount of water is going to stop what it's going to do. But by not having fire breaks and not allowing to do what they needed to do, having more fuel on the ground fueled it. Did
Yeah,
you,
right.
speaking of California, did you see the story of the two young men that saved their house and their neighbor's house by using the swimming pool water?
No, I didn't. I didn't
So
catch
these two guys, they very quickly, these two fellas, their father, a couple of months beforehand, I watched them on the news. And they're a couple of months beforehand, their father said, we've got to be prepared for fire season. And so he brought in some expert, probably a fireman. I
that.
don't know because they never said. He brought an expert in, and the guy said, you need to get a pump, you need to get a Y, you need some fire hose and these nozzles and whatnot, and a generator. They
Hmm.
bought all the material, set it up. This fella showed him how to use it all.
So that's Moxie.
Yes, and this is where, you know what? Well, you cannot rely on your you have to be we all need to be self-reliant. We
Oh,
all need to be self-reliant. That's the bottom line. So the short story is they ended up save their house, their neighbor's house. They used all of the water in their swimming pool. So they went to the neighbor's house and they used three-quarters of that water in the swimming pool, and through the fire was able to save those two houses. And they said, had we not been there, they would have been gone. And so
yeah.
fabulous. It is about being self-reliant and not just going, somebody's got to do something. I'm waiting for somebody to show up.
Well, you remind me of a kind of, I think, a story for a similar thing. So the guy, I can't remember his name, who ran for mayor of LA against the one, he lost, of course, because
Oh
he was
yeah.
conservative, and he was a developer. And he had his own private fire force around his development shopping mall, I think it was, around
Yes.
somewhere around in that area. And that all got saved in a classic example of what you're talking about. But to have a city or a government so pathetic that you have to hire your own fire force. Obviously, we all can't do that. They had to hire his own fire force to save
Right.
this stuff, and you're paying these outrageous taxes for it. Is just unbelievable. And it's the same indictment of the school system. You're paying all these outrageous taxes for a
Yeah.
school system you can't use because it's a disaster. and this is pretty much what's happening across the board when it comes to the left. And remember, not that long ago, the insurance companies all pulled out. Now, what does that tell you? They're in the business of making money. They evaluated the way the government was running these regulations in terms of fire prevention and said, we can't do it. It's going to be like a disaster, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when a private business walks away and say, I can't make, when an insurance company walks away and say, get money, right then, and you can't get insurance, you know what time it is.
Well, yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's really bad. It's that area is bad. And so it's going to be, there's talk about, because Biden says, well, we're going to cover 100% of everything for 6 months for California. And I think he's talking about the cleanup and whatnot. And everybody's going to get $770. Don't you know that's going to go a long way? And
That might buy you 4 tires.
you know, jeez,
well,
that's
well, here's the thing
that's
you have to think
groceries for a
about.
month.
And I know this has already come up. So the other 49 states are supposed to chip in because you were doing stupid stuff. This is almost like if you have a kid who's out there raping and pillaging and not getting a job and running a bunch of debt, and then you and the rest of your family are supposed to pitch in so that they could, get back to square one when they're doing stuff that you've been telling them all along was going to be a disaster. The other 49 states, you just say, hey, there's just like you would with a kid. Yeah, we'll take you back in, but there's conditions. And the conditions are this: A, B, C, and D. We are going to get rid of these stupid regulations. We're going to get rid of these stupid environmental policies. We're going to get rid of this really radical, crazy liberal leadership. They got to go. We're not going to just throw money at it. So this can happen again in 10 years. The other 49 other states, well, at least 46, because take Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii out of it because they're just as stupid. The other 40 and New York, the other 44 states is like, we're not bailing you out. And a lot of people don't realize that's how our system, whenever you go to the feds, that's the other states paying for your stuff. When Seattle wants to blow $6 million on a tunnel, why should the citizens of Maine pay for that?
Right.
They're not benefiting from it.
And so that's a great point, because I've heard talk about that. And there should be some stipulations to the money going there, and that it could never be diverted for something else, and maybe a matching fund. California is so broke, and yet well, we're going to put 50 million aside to fight Trump. No, you won't.
Yeah, their governor's actually in the middle of having a meeting with their
Yes.
legislator to figure out how to get rid of Trump while these fires are going on. I mean, you can't make this up. I mean, this is
No.
just incredible. I'd be remiss if I didn't. The mayor of LA, a lot of people don't realize this. She was a radical member of the Weather Underground back in the 70s, burning, looting, raping, and pillaging. Even back then, she went to
Yeah.
Cuba like what 17 times or something. I wrote it down. I mean, she's going to commie Cuba on trips. And this is the other thing. She's in Ghana. What in the hell? I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep my language clean. What in the hell is the mayor of a city doing going to a federal another country? That's a federal thing to do. Why in the hell does a local what business do you have to do that spending taxpayers' money to go on a junket to Ghana? It's
Right.
like insane. I personally think, and this is true of any mayor in any city or any official who's not federal, should not be able to expense going outside the country. That's not their job. Now if you're a U.S. senator or a U.S., I would have questions about that too. But at least you could justify that. There is what business does a mayor have doing that, even in normal times? Not to mention when your city's in the middle of a fire season.
And I mean, the mayor of LA is it's a huge city. It's a huge city. And actually the LA City Fire Department is like number 1 in the nation. Their reputation right now isn't, but and you're right. There it's the LA has been a jewel of California, but the mayor shouldn't be going. That's a governor's job to go to international things. I mean, are you going there to try to bring some business from Ghana over here? I don't think so. I don't think so. Are you trying to work a deal for your businesses to sell things to Ghana? That's the governor's job. I don't think that's the mayor's job, right? The mayor is about public safety.
It's inexcusable. And to think what they've done, and we're all old enough here to remember when California was the crown jewel.
Oh,
The
yeah.
greatest place to live in the world was the United States, and the greatest place to live in the United States was California, and the greatest place to live in California was Southern California.
Oh, absolutely.
And I when I was there in the 80s, it was like paradise.
Mhm.
And it was a two-party state. In fact, the whole time I was there, Republicans were governors. You might remember Duke Mason and Wilson, and I can't remember the guys before that. Reagan, of course, right?
Yeah.
And it's been a one-party state for the last 30 years. And I look at what the hell we got. We literally have hell. It looks like hell. It's hot
Yeah.
as hell.
Yeah. I used to live in San Diego. I spent 10 years there. I'll tell you, I love San Diego. You couldn't pay me to live in San Diego today. The only thing nice there is the weather. The place is trashed because it's gone from single family residence to rezoning to multifamily, and the streets aren't any wider. The infrastructure's not there. There's no parking. It's awful. And San Diego was a beautiful town, and so I'm understanding that this area in LA, in the Pacific Palisades and the other areas, have been rezoned multifamily. So
I'll tell you,
single family residence, you can build a multifamily residence and then just open up the doors and go, yeah, well, I'm going to live here now. Just
just squat there. That apparently works out pretty well.
Yeah.
There's a case now. I'll to bring my son on this because him and I had a great discussion the other day. He's quite a thoughtful guy, and he was making the case that the federal government needs to take over California, or at least those parts of California that are ungovernable. Now, you talk about San Francisco County, you talk about LA County. They're not able to do the most basic thing, which is protect the citizens. And there's precedent for this. After the Civil War, that's exactly what the federal government had to do because the the Democrat states, which happened to be in the South, wouldn't enforce the law. And they wouldn't allow, in that case, they were so immoral that they wouldn't allow blacks to vote. The grandfather laws, all the other stuff that the Democrat Party started, they were doing that stuff.
Mhm.
And so who was it after Johnson? I can't remember the one after Johnson. After they killed Lincoln, Democrats did that, by the way. They missed on Trump, but they tried. And they were and so the federal government had to squat on them for literally like 20 years. There's a case to be made. I don't know what that would look like, but Maybe the place just can't govern itself, and it needs to have adults come into town and govern them for 10 or 20 years. I don't know. It's
There's an option, but I think the solution of having some regulations, some stipulations on the monies that are going to be going down there is going to be the answer. And the mayor has to go, and the governor has to go.
oh, at a minimum.
And the fellow, I'm sure the people of LA are wishing they would have elected the other guy for mayor.
No, oh, absolutely.
They're going, oh my God, did we ever screw up?
I understand in Florida they're going to put a sign outside the airport. Send us your poor, you're stricken, you're. It'll be like the Statue of Liberty in the other states. Texas, Florida, send us your poor, you're homeless, you're stricken, you're people who just can't take it anymore. Send us your productive citizens. You can keep the rest.
Yeah.
That's happening by itself, obviously, because people are fleeing the state. But I know we take it all the time up with California. We had some other incredible issues to discuss as well. But that California thing, I just can't believe it.
And they're supposed to have some more wins, coming up. But I think they are ready now.
Yeah, well, I think they're definitely ready. And Bobby, I see your question. Is there a recall for Oregon yet? Oregon needs to have an event like that, and and it's entirely possible. I hate to say it. I hope not, but stupid people have to learn by getting punched in the face. That's just the only way they learn.
Yeah.
You know.
So what else you got?
Wow. Well, I was going to defer to you because that the conversation.
Well, how about
ceasefire? How about
the
that?
FDA banning red dye number 3 because it causes cancer in food? This is a Trump effect and an RFK Jr. effect. And I'm loving this. I'm loving this, that they're not confirmed. We don't have, we haven't even sworn our president in yet. And there are a multitude of things happening, not just in our country, but around the world that are a Trump effect. And I think that it's just like, and I read that from, oh gosh, her name just escaped me. Anyway, I read a story earlier today that red dye number 3 was banned from cosmetics 35 years ago because that's when they deemed that it was cancer causing. And yet it's been allowed to be. Cheryl Atkinson has done a story on this, and you can find it on X. And so hello, if it shouldn't be in cosmetics, but where it's in our food.
And we're eating it.
And the FDA is going, oh gosh, we better do something good here for the people, because we're going to get a new sheriff in town in just a few days. I love it.
The things they're going to find with our food supply, I am sure. There's just too many things, not to mention drug supply, not to mention the V word. There are too many things that are sideways right now. And you don't have to be a statistician or a medical expert to see it. Pretty much everybody looks around and they know somebody who's got some weird turbo cancer that came out of nowhere. We know people that have these cardiovascular events and all these weird diseases that used to be in the back of the package insert in tiny print that happens. They were so rare, like Johnson-Barré syndrome, that are happening all over the place. Young people dropping dead of heart attacks and passing out on the football field. But the media won't cover it. Well, it's going to have to get covered now.
Yeah, and so I just posted a link to the story from PJ Media that actually has a lot of this stuff, that what I just mentioned. And so this is a good thing. Red dye number 3, they are banning it from food, beverages, and oral drugs. The ban is going to go into effect in 2 years. January 15 of 2027. Why? Does it take them 2 years for the food processors? Because I think a lot of the foods that countries are banning, things that we have in our own food here, they're already making those foods and selling them to other countries. And so there's no reason that we shouldn't be able to just, okay, give them 1 year.
Mhm. Yeah.
6 months I would be real happy with, but 2 years, I think that's too long. I
Yeah.
really do think that that is too long.
If it's poisonous, how about we stop now?
Yeah, there you go. I'm down for that. But there's a lot of things that I for my own diet, I don't
Mhm.
think I'm kind of think of what do I eat that might have that in it.
Well, who
I
reads
don't
the
think I
package?
do because I'm not a soda drinker. There's a lot of processed food that
Mhm.
doesn't pass these lips.
Yeah, yeah, and you're probably one of the rare folks, because most people just, they assume that what the government has checked the box as being, good is safe, and they eat it. And we consume, like, I can't remember how many more pounds of sugar than we did, 50 years ago. And anybody who's seen pictures from, folks coming home from World War II and that sort of thing, you can see we were a much skinnier country. I think the average weight of an American soldier was 165 pounds, 5'10", 160. That age group, right? We all gained some pounds. We're older. We're talking about
Mhm,
that 20 to
mhm,
25-year-old
mhm.
age group. And the average woman was like 5'2", like 105 pounds or something. Now it's like, 100. The men haven't changed that much. The women have changed a lot, right? Like it's like the average woman is like the same way as the average man now. I think it's the stats I saw.
You are talking my language because I'm
Yeah.
5'2" and I used to weigh 105. I haven't seen that for a while.
Yeah.
120 was a long time. I weighed 115. Now I'm telling you too much. I shouldn't say that.
But
So,
that's it.
but
My wife is the same size as you. Yep. She was the exact same size. She was
no.
5'2" and 105 when I met her. Yep. That's
And I'll tell you, when you get older, hey, geez, it's hard to get the stuff off. It
but
truly is. No matter what if you're
but
eating
here's the
salads
thing.
all the
At
time.
the extremes, though, we didn't see, morbid obesity, 50
No,
years ago.
no, not at all.
Our grandparents might have gained a few, but they weren't like morbidly obese. You see people running around now, 100, 200 pounds. There's TV shows where they're like people going in for surgery, 600 pounders, right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah. A reality show about that. Oh my word. Turn
yeah,
it off.
military having to change their training procedures to give an extra week so people are getting good enough shape so they can walk a mile. You didn't have any of that 20 years ago, 30 years
So
ago.
listen to this. This is from this same article. A 1990 study conducted by researchers at the Department of Medicine endocrine section at the University of Pennsylvania found that chronic erythrocin, that is red dye number 3, ingestion may promote thyroid tumor formation in rats via chronic stimulation of the thyroid by TSH. And 2 states, California and New York, were already making plans to ban the additive, while 3 others, Tennessee, Arkansas, and Indiana, were also in the process of taking these steps to remove it from certain foods.
Mhm.
Europe, Australia, and New Zealand have banned the dye in food with exceptions for certain types of cherries.
Mhm.
Bam. See, they don't need 2 years.
Yeah.
It's already banned.
Yeah.
And if
Well,
and if the company can't get it out of there and make their recipe something else, then quit the damn product, producing the product. Sorry. There's going to be winners and losers, and it's not for the FDA to choose who it is. It's for the consumer and taking care of the people. Get that stuff out of the food.
yeah. Hey, yeah. That's absolutely right. You do the right thing, and the chips fall where they fall.
Yes.
I mean, they're literally killing us. I think we're the first. We're coming up on the first generation that won't experience an increase in life expectancy in American history. Right? Something is rotten in Denmark, if you will. Um, and we got somebody other. We got to talk about that ceasefire a little bit, right? You were telling me earlier,
Yes. Yes.
another Trump effect.
Yes, it is. And so there is a ceasefire deal and a deal, with the hostages. We'll see what happens. That has come today. I'm going to post a link. I've got a link here from PJ Media again on that. And I'll tell you, that is a huge Trump effect. He said, if the hostage situation isn't done, all hell is going to break loose. And so they have been working, and of course Biden takes credit today. You know, he takes credit today. Well, they've both taken credit. But you know what? The American people and the world knows who is behind that. They know it's a Trump effect. Like, no way Biden did. In fact, Biden in his last speech from the Oval Office, thank God is what I say, said, we've been working on this for 8 months. And I burst out going, like heck. Well, that's not quite what I said, but you can,
We can guess what you said. I think we can guess what
you know,
you said. Well, here's the thing. We got this thing going in LA. Wouldn't any other president have flown there? See, the guy
yeah.
is so out to lunch, we don't even ask the basic questions. Where the hell is the president? When Katrina happened, people were
He's
raising
out to lunch and we know it. And frankly, just stay there.
Yeah,
Like
that's true.
stay in the basement. Stay in the basement, Biden, because every time you come out, you screwing something up. Well, not you, your people.
Yeah, right. Great point. But
T-5.
yeah, I know. That's all we can do is count. And I got to say, I thought after Ronald Reagan, I'd never see that again in my lifetime. I thought you get one of those a lifetime. We are standing to get like two. This is epic. And he, if this goes the right way, it's rising to the point of Abraham Lincoln style status. And we've only had two or three of those. This is pretty incredible.
I'll tell you, it is incredible. And I think there's a lot of people that don't realize how incredible, because this is the type of president I've waited my whole life for. And when he got in his first term, and what is so interesting, let's talk about that a little bit, Don. In his first term, he asked some big name entertainers, hey, play my inauguration. Nope. He was shunned. He was shunned by everybody. Now they're coming out of the woodwork. They want to be involved. Here you have Zuckerberg throwing an inauguration party for him, hosting, paying for, I'm sure, an inauguration party for him. I don't trust that guy as far as I can throw him. Yes, he's accomplished. He's got a lot of money. Not impressive to me, because of what he has done has hurt America so much. I believe, not in the censorship and the political donations that he did, but he did help. He did help wake up a lot of people. So, but I don't have to like the guy. And so but so many of the people that shunned him, the billionaires, people that wanted to keep an arm's length from him in his first administration, are now going, what can I do? I want to help.
Well, I'll tell you what, Sonny. I think this is not from a morality standpoint. Just like you said, I wouldn't trust them either. These people licked their thumbs, stuck it out the window, saw which way the wind was blowing. And if they didn't, they were in the middle. They were going to get run over by a freight train, of like 80 million pissed off American citizens coming right at them. That's what they woke up to. And of course, obviously, I think they're trying to buy their way out of some lawsuits that absolutely have to come their way once these investigations get going. So, yeah, like you, I don't trust them a bit. But hey, what is that old adage about strange bedfellows?
Politics does make strange bedfellows, absolutely. But I think right now it is how the winds of change are blowing, because DEI is dying.
Mm-hmm.
Thank God. We're making some huge strides, not just in our country, but in the world, because other countries have elected, like Argentine President Javier Milei. He's an Argentina first guy.
Right.
Argentina first. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
They're called Argentines, not Argentinians.
Okay.
And anyway, but yet the fellow, who was he? The fellow from that was overthrown.
Oh, Romania. I think
Romania. The president of Romania, their election was just overthrown, and he's a Romania first guy, and the citizens, they're in the streets by the hundreds of thousands of people. And but you don't hear about that in the news. And I saw it on X, and then I looked up and did a little bit. There's a lot of winds of change, but the globalists are going to do everything they can to hold on and to thwart it. You
Yeah.
know, truly they are. And we all need to say a prayer for Trump, the cabinet picks. I've watched a little bit of the the hearings for
Mhm.
the cabinet picks. Pete Hegseth got, raked over the coals by the Democrats. And I thought he handled himself pretty well. It's tough being in the hot seat, not losing your temper, keeping your cool. He drank a lot of water, though.
Well, I gotta say, I gotta give you credit if you watched it. You have a stronger stomach than me. I was driving and listened to about 10 minutes of the fake Indian chief out in
Oh my
you know,
word!
is it
Yeah.
Massachusetts or Connecticut? I can't remember which one she's from. And it was one of the most horrendous things I've ever heard. Now we all know it's just theater. She would take literally 5 or 6 minutes asking to ask the question, if you will, which is
Yeah.
basically just her grandstanding. And
Yes.
then he would start to answer, and then she would shut him down in 30 seconds, take another 3 or 4 minutes grandstanding. And it reminded me very much. That's the way the whole thing with the Clarence Thomas hearings, the Bork hearings.
Yes.
It's what it's
Yes.
what Democrats have learned to do way back then. Is when they started, cutting their teeth on this sort of thing. It's just pure grandstanding. And he did well just to like let her have. It's all fake. It's all for her and her hard left, and just let her rumble. Um, you know.
Yes, but I something I noticed. So today, while I was doing some work in the house, the television's on. My mom was watching it, and so Marco Rubio. Well, he's a senator. Those
Mhm,
senators know him, and the Democrats did nothing like that, to him at all. They
mhm,
didn't do any of that because well, he's one of them. He's going to sail right through this and be our
mhm.
Secretary of State. Pam Bondi did good today. What little bit I did see a little bit of hers today, not very much. And but I saw a little bit, and she like roasted one of the senators.
Mhm.
It was really, oh, I'll tell you who it was. Chuck, not no, it was pencil neck.
No,
That
that's a
guy, big head, pencil neck, Schiff, Adam Schiff.
yeah,
Oh yeah, she like roasted him, and I thought it was so good. I said, "Go Pam, go!" That was
yeah,
like the only thing that I really saw was, and so the news, of course, is playing that highlight because
yeah,
she just hit back. She just hit back. Oh yeah, you know what? You got indicted for this, and we're,
yeah.
psh,
Yeah, well,
your word's nothing.
I guess the hard thing for me to stomach. So here's a guy, and going back to the Secretary of Defense nominee, a guy who's been, was he Special Forces? I think, highly decorated.
He's decorated. He was a
He's highly
major.
decorated in
Yep.
combat, and you got this weenie like grilling you over
Oh
your thoughts over military policy. It's like unbelievable. You're
yeah.
sitting here watching this. This is like me grilling Mike Tyson over the intricacies of boxing. I know nothing about it, and here's a
Right.
person who's an absolute expert about war, and you're going to beat him up. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. And we need a warrior back in there and get rid of the whole DEI, the diversity in there. And I will say this as a woman. And one of the things I like that he said is, and because one of the Republican senators said, what about the standards for women? He says, yes, let's set the standards here. Anybody who can meet it, great. You've met the standard. It's instead of one for women, a standard for women and a standard for men. It should be gender neutral standards, and that's it. Because when we need warriors. I am all for what women can do, but we need warriors in battle. Not that women can't be warriors, but truthfully, women are more the nurturing bunch. The men are the warriors. We're the nurturing bunch. And
See, how dare you say
and there's so many jobs of still being in the military. Yeah, how dare I say that? But you know what? I've been like I've broken some glass ceilings in my own time. In fact, there was a time that I wanted to be a firefighter. Well, I'm only 5'2". That's not very realistic.
Mhm.
And back then, they had a 5'5" standard. And you know what? And if you couldn't carry the ladder,
Mhm.
you weren't doing it. If you physically can't do it. And women are not as strong as men. And there's a lot of other jobs in the military. I'm not saying they shouldn't be in the military,
Mhm.
but when you're talking about special forces or certain jobs, sorry, there's I think it goes to who can meet the requirements. It's merit based. That's what it all has to be, is merit based.
Well, and we used to be able to say common sense stuff like that. I mean, listen,
Yes.
you think about what special forces or or Navy SEALs or Rangers or any of those things. What percentage of women can do that? It's
Yeah.
like insane. Hell, what percentage of men can do it? Not to mention, right? And we're talking about you're put in circumstances where, and there's other reasons beyond the physical component too. There's just biological things that don't work when you are out there for 3 or 4 months, like foraging in the woods and enemies chasing you down. It just doesn't work. Now, just like you said, there's a zillion other jobs
Oh
that you
yeah.
can do and should
There's
do and are
so
capable
many.
of doing, right? But when it comes down to things that put you in hand-to-hand combat type, situations, it's absolute insanity to
Yeah.
think more than a tiniest of tiny fractions of women can do that.
Yeah. And all the gear that you have to wear.
Yeah.
I mean, like a firefighter today is wearing 70 pounds of gear. And I used to go backpacking a lot. My backpack typically weighed between 45 and 50 pounds.
Mhm.
When I would head out, as I did some long range backpacking, 130 miles is the longest one I ever went on.
Mhm.
And but that's what I could carry.
Yeah.
And so I'm not going to put carry 70. Sorry, not
Yeah.
happening. And like Bobby says, a very good statement here. Look at the security detail when Trump got shot. I mean, they had people that weren't even as tall as him. Hello. And it could have been a woman who was 6 foot tall.
Right. They could have put it. Yeah. It-
Okay, I'm fine with that.
mhm.
But put somebody that is, security needs to be as tall as who they're around, right?
It, it,
Guarding.
it'd, be, it'd be nice. They know how to put their gun in their holster too.
Right,
That would
right.
help.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
given the technological era we live in today, there are tons of combat roles that you can do without physically being in combat, like the people
Yes.
who do the drones. I mean, it's like incredible that they'd be trying to put women in physical combat units. That's like
Yeah.
insane. There's
Yeah.
no reason to do it. And the results you'd get is we saw the results of DEI. We just talked about it. What happened in LA?
Yeah.
It's like crazy. Why
And
are we
then
doing
you
that?
have to have, I've got to have special latrines for the women. I got to have special showers. I got to have special this. You know what? When you're, they just don't, people don't need to deal with that when you're out. That's my opinion. That's my
Yeah,
opinion.
and then the last thing I would say, it might be controversial, but I'll say it anyway. You're going to put a bunch of 18 and 19-year-olds together, out in the field for like 3 months, and of the opposite sex, and are you really crazy? Like
Yeah.
nothing's going to happen, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Nobody's going to get pregnant, right?
That's right.
Uh,
It's human nature, and it takes over. And I'll tell you what, in you live hard, you work hard, you also play hard.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
reality.
and
That's the
there's yeah,
reality.
and yeah, you look at
And when
women
you're
that
putting your life on the line, let me tell you, you're going to do some crazy shit to go play.
that's just what's going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
the clean version of that was that old TV show MASH, right? Which was,
Right.
yeah. But there is a place where men and women work. It was that's about as good as it
Yeah.
gets,
Yeah.
because in that setting, men and women can be equally exceptional. Why not put us in places where we can be exceptional?
Absolutely.
And by the way, like that's unimportant. Saving troops' lives. Yeah,
Right.
you know.
So, hey, everybody, we've got let's see. I had another, let me see. Nope, I don't. I have another meeting to get to, so I have to go. have to tell you,
You did it again.
we've gone over an hour, and tonight, and I'll be back on Friday, and I want to let our audience know that Don and I are going to be here on inauguration night. So we will see you then, and we'll be talking about that. I'll tell you, say your prayers for our president and our incoming president and his administration, and that the confirmation hearings, go. I heard 3 of them got postponed, and they're saying, oh, it's FBI stuff and whatever. You know what? Give the man the people he wants. Put him through.
And let's keep winning bigly.
We are winning bigly. I can't wait. We're doing it already.
I love it. We love you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the show. We couldn't do what we do without you, and it makes my week every week. I got to say, it really does.
And we are on Rumble now. So everybody, want to let you know we're on Rumble, Captive Audience OR. So check us out there, and I'm glad that we're there. So we're now on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and X. Like and share.
YouTube, Rumble, and X. Ooh, I'm writing that down.
Yes.
That's awesome. Let's get ready to rumble, as the guy says.
Okay. Have a good night, everybody. And like and share, spread the message. And I'll be back Friday.
Good night, everybody. See you next week.